Okay, so the Labour Party started an investigation into me on the 1st of October. And that was even before the GMB. So 1st of October, what had happened was that my CLP had rung alarm bells. My CLP, there's a few Zionists in my CLP, and when they saw I didn't even told anyone in the CLP what I was up to. You know, I just did this on my own bat. I never mentioned it at a CLP meeting, nothing. However, they sniffed what was going on, and they demanded that the chairperson report me, and she did. So she reported me to the General Secretary of the Labour Party, Brian Roy, who doesn't like me much anyway because he thinks I'm a campaigner, and he sent it straight to Jenny Formby. Oh, this man's got to be sorted out. Jenny Formby said, okay, we'll start an investigation. And I got the letter on the 1st of October. And that was with a bunch of questions saying, you know, do you regret this? Do you think you've put your foot in it? Blah, blah. And I was quite truthful. I said, you know, I've said it once, I'll say it again. They wanted me to undergo training with, guess who? The Jewish Labour Movement, because at that point they were the official training provider for the Labour Party when it came to anti-Semitism. I said, are you kidding? I end up like Jackie Walker. They film the people they train, and if you criticize Israel, you're cooked, you know. I mean, they use these training sessions as a way to get people expelled that they don't like. So thankfully, they've had that job taken away from them, but more about that later if you're interested. So anyway, on the 1st of October, I got this investigation, and I answered it truthfully. 2 weeks later, they got the answers, and they didn't know what to do with me. So they sat on it. They didn't know what to do because I basically stuck two fingers up saying, yeah, I mean, this is about my freedom of speech on Israel. Do you really seriously challenge my claim that Israel is not racist? There's a country that has just adopted a nation state law in July that basically decrees that Jews are the master race and Arabs are second-class citizens. You're going to deny this? You're going to expel me for saying this when it's so obvious, it's as plain as the nose on your face? And they didn't. Well, they didn't do anything. I think at that point they saw the GMB were kicking in, and they thought, well, we'll see what the GMB can do with them. And the GMB expelled me. So bingo. Interestingly, they expelled me on the 5th of March, and the Labour Party move in. But what happened was just 6 days later, the Jewish newspaper, published this story.
Which I think is Times of Israel, isn't it? I think it's Jewish News and Times of Israel, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think you're right. So they published a story saying not only has he said Israel exaggerates the Holocaust, which is a disgraceful thing to say, but he's also been suspended from the Labour Party. And I said, wait a minute. And I started writing to them saying, this is bollocks. I haven't been suspended from the party. Your article's all wrong. And they didn't change their article. And I know that they got my emails because a reporter, a young woman, phoned up and wanted to ask me questions saying, do you think the Labour Party is doing enough to combat anti-Semitism? I says, are you kidding? There's hardly any anti-Semitism. Don't make it up. Anyway, but they didn't change their article. And then I discovered that they knew in advance what had happened to me. Someone in the Labour Party had phoned up the Jewish News and told them that I was being suspended several days before they told me. And this is the first
5 days before they told you.
Yeah. But they did this to Asa Winstanley about a month ago. It was, in that case, it was the Jewish Chronicle. They told the Jewish Chronicle. The Jewish Chronicle published the story. Asa reads it in the Chronicle, and then he gets the letter. So, you know, this is happening. It's a pattern. There's a mole in there, and the Labour Party isn't bothered.
Now, with that in mind, what do you think about Tom Watson demanding that all complaints of anti-Semitism are sent not just through the official channels, but directly to his email? What do you think about him saying that a week or two ago? He got a severe dressing down from Jenny, the Jenny Formby, is it the secretary for that? I mean, with that in mind, they're obviously leaking stuff to newspapers about this. I mean...
Well, I think the problem's massive. I mean, you have to look, when this IHRA thing was adopted, not only was Corbyn drowned out on the 4th of September, him and 3 people in the NEC opposed it. I know who those 3 people were. But Corbyn was forced into accepting something he knew he was bad. And then on the 5th of September, they had the Parliamentary Labour Party looked at it. And out of 257 MPs, 208 voted, 8 voted against. I think I could probably tell you the MPs that voted against. And 200 voted for, of course, including Tom Watson. So you have 200 MPs that are basically conned. They've all been conned. I actually asked my Edinburgh South MP, Ian Murray, why did he vote for it? And he said, well, because everybody's voted for it. We can't be different. The unions have got it, the schools have got it, the police have got it. We have to have it. We can't be different. Other political parties have got it. We've got to have it. Actually, the Greens don't have it, for which I have great admiration.
Oh, well done, the Greens. I mean, it's curious that I remember at the time. I mean, this is going back to September. I remember the newspapers at the time. I made several comments on videos about how the newspapers and the media were exaggerating this IHRA definition to call it the internationally recognised. Do you remember? This was the terminology that the international community recognises the IHRA definition. How many countries was it?
I can't
that recognised
8 or something.
I think it was 8. It was 8 countries, and that was what they were saying was internationally recognised. Now, obviously, there's about 200 of them in the world, so you can see there that how the media sort of propagandized it, and I certainly think that would have had some effect on people just saying, "Oh, well, we've got to go along with it because it's the internationally recognised thing."
Can I point out that Russia hasn't adopted it? And it doesn't have that much anti-Semitism at all. Well, I can't find any reports. I actually did a study about 3 months ago looking at all the countries in the world that had adopted it and those that hadn't, and where all the anti-Semitism was popping up. And the ones that adopted it seem to be having lots of problems with anti-Semitism.
It's almost as if the ones who are adopting it actually causes unnecessary complaints of anti-Semitism, isn't it?
Well, because if you define anti-Semitism as suddenly a whole new bunch of things, suddenly criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. Of course, the number of plaints go through the roof. So, by redefining the language, you automatically create lots of anti-Semitic incidents. But then there's a little bit more going on, of course, because I think there is also a kind of there's a general frustration. And I think Jews in this country are quite confused about where their loyalties lie, because they know people in Israel and maybe they've got family in Israel. And what Israel's doing is disgraceful. And they're seeing it from the UK. And their allegiances are being sorely tested. And they're being called upon to recognize that Israel's racist. And for a lot of them, it's very, very painful, and they just rather not get caught up in it. Some of them are actively in supporting it because they believe in the Zionist project. They believe that Jews need a home of their own, and their perception of what a home of their own means is one where Jews have power. And they're the ones who are driving this thing. They're the ones in the Jewish labor movement. They're the ones who are all over the country pushing this IHRA definition. They're the ones like Margaret Hodge and Luciana Berger. They're the ones that are, if you like, creating this crisis. And Israel's very clever because Israel's pulling everyone's strings. All these trolls that Luciana Berger complains about. Well, Asa Stanley did a study of them and found that quite a lot of them didn't exist. These are fake IDs. People are trolling and they're fakes. And where do they come from? And I who's paying people to troll? Why would anyone pay anyone to troll? There's an industry here, and Norman Finkelstein calls it the Holocaust industry.
It's not just trolling. It's not just trolling. It's Russian bots as well. You look at New Knowledge. There's a group called New Knowledge in America that were basically saying that Roy Moore in the Alabama election was he was being propped up by Russian bots, and it was their bots that were propping him up. And then they obviously say they'll attack somebody with the bots and then say, look, you've got a bot problem, well, you need us to obviously stop this problem. It's a grift is what it is.
Yeah, I think Israel is brilliant at the PSYOPs. They decided 20 years ago we're going to redefine language, and they got the US State Department involved in creating this IHRA definition, got the EU to use it as a monitoring tool. But even the guy that wrote it, Kenneth Stern, he says it's a restriction on free speech. It's being used in ways that I never envisaged. And it's being used to stop free speech. And I think that's why I kind of I'm so angry. That's why I'm doing all this, is because I don't believe anyone can take away my freedom of speech. There is a universal Declaration of Human Rights that says I've got freedom of speech. I must tell you a story, right?
Go on, mate.
According to the 1998 Human Rights Act that Tony Blair got into a year into power, that government adopted, it actually says that no public authority, no publicly funded body is allowed to take away your freedom of speech. It's illegal for them to take away your freedom of speech. Now, the Labour Party can do this because it's not publicly funded. Trade unions can do this because they're not publicly funded. But a publicly funded body, by doing it, is breaching. So I had this banner, which is a Latouf banner. It's a picture of Jeremy Corbyn and Netanyahu. And Netanyahu's in this sort of little toy airplane firing torpedoes at Corbyn, marked the lobby, and he's shouting, anti-Semite, anti-Semite. It's a funny picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this at the Labour conference, and I tried to put it up as a banner. I made it to a banner. And the cops stopped me. 3 times the police stopped me. They stopped me. They got pretty nasty. It looked like they were going to arrest me for putting it up. So I just sneaked around the corner and tried to put it up again. But no, they found me, made another fuss. And I got all the numbers. And I said, you can't do this. And they said, oh, yeah, we can. We've been told we can. And they said, oh, we've been told that your banner has to go. And the people who own this site say that your banner has to go. So I got in touch after I got back to Scotland. I got in touch with 70 Liverpool city councillors who own the site. And they said, we didn't say anything about your banner. The police are making it up. And I went back to the police and said, you're making it up. And that's when they started getting funny. So I went through the whole complaints procedure, and they told lies through their teeth. Luckily, I had all their badge numbers, and luckily I had 4 witnesses. And now I'm taking them to court because I can't take them to court. And I've got a lawyer lined up on Friday from DP Law who's going to pursue this. I'm going to win it because they've broken the law.
Because unlike the GMB and Labour, they're actually publicly funded.
That's right. And I think there's 2 people I know that have been fired. They've lost their jobs for criticising Israel. A teacher in Manchester and an environmental health worker in London, Stan Keeble. They've got the case coming up, Shan, in end of May. And these people have been fired for saying Israel's racist. It's insane. But, technically, I'm advising these people that they need to take these councils to court through a civil action for breaching their human rights, because what they did was they took away their freedom of speech, and no publicly funded body can do that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, people like me stand behind you 100% and support you in what you're doing, Pete. Because
and guess what? I'm going to get the money from the cops to pay for a judicial review with the Labour Party. How about that? How sweet would that be if we got money from the cops to get the...
Thanks for watching. Please make sure you're still subscribed and click the bell below for a notification of when I drop further videos. Also, click through to my website to find out ways which you can support me. I can't do this without your support, and I really appreciate it. Till next time, peace and take care.